you a woman in medicine feeling overwhelmed and disconnected from the personal fulfillment that you desire? You're in the right place. Join doctors Joanne and Erin as they rewrite the rules for women in medicine. Let's begin.
Many women physicians are not overwhelmed because they cannot manage their time. They are overwhelmed because everything feels important. In this episode, I am with my super co host, Dr. Erin, and we're going to be talking about discernment and why this is a critical ingredient missing in our daily decisions. But before we get started, we love your help getting more eyes and ears on the Create Meaning in Medicine podcast. So if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, please take a moment, go to the show, scroll down and tap the stars, or even better, leave a written review. And if you're watching on YouTube, please leave us a comment and subscribe. And with that, let's get back straight to this important topic. I love that word discernment. It is coming up in our coaching sessions more and more. So let's start. Erin, what do you mean by discernment?
It's really about being able to distinguish between what matters and what's clamoring for your attention. And also then digging in a little deeper and looking at what is the level of attention, if it deserves your attention. What's the level of attention? How much detail do we need to be spending on this specific item? And even really working on, should it even be on your radar at all? So that discernment, is this even important? Should it be on my radar, and paying attention, because there's so much noise out there, so much competing interests. If you think about, news and social media, how many emails you have, all of these places that are clamoring for your attention. And it can be exhausting just even trying to figure out, where am I supposed to look right now? And then with each piece of data, how important is it? So that can be pretty exhausting. And when your work is working in healthcare and maybe being in a leadership position or running a practice, it's really important to use a pause and use discernment to your advantage. Because if we don't, we're going to end up most of our days completely exhausted.
And I love how you talked about it in terms of the noise. And by that, we mean, I love how you're saying the competing interests, because there's a lot of other important things. So it's the question is not, is this important? But then that's such a important word of your discernment into, is this what needs my attention right now? And it's those shifts in language that really keeps us, like we've been talking recently, connected with ourselves and in alignment. And it's okay if it's different than what you've been doing before, but you have the ability to have that pause to ask that question of, is this where I want to put my energy? That you said it so clearly, Erin. Thank you. I was taking notes. And give me more details of why this is important for women in medicine.
I will do that by sharing a couple of examples that I've been highlighting with my own coaching clients to help them understand how discernment can work in their favor. And part of it is recognizing what can be done. So one area that I've been coaching clients on for a few years now is on efficiency and getting their charts done. So they're not eliminating those pajama charting hours, compressing their workday so it fits in the workday and isn't spilling into family time. And one of the ways that we can do that is by asking ourselves, the goal is the highest quality patient care and not overdoing it with our documentation. And so documentation rules have changed. There's something called AMA Steps Forward that shares, this is what's needed now, what's relevant now. And yet so many healthcare providers are still over documenting. It used to be needed to put all this stuff in the notes, and now it's not. And so when we're overworking for what's needed, instead of saying what has to go into this note to make it clear for future healthcare when we're reading this? What's just cluttering it up? Can we be discerning and put the necessary ingredients? I talk to people, don't put full paragraphs, use bullet points. It's going to save you time. It's going to save the reader time. It's going to save space, and it will make things more clear. So again, where are you putting in A+ effort that is not needed? And so that's discernment with where it's basically kind of needing to switch hats. Okay, this needs my A+ effort with the quality of care. This patient is so critical. It has to be A+. And if you're treating a child who comes into your office with an ear infection with the same level of high critical thinking as a patient in the ICU, I'm using real extreme examples, then it seems obvious. It may be a little bit different in your scope of practice, but really ask yourself, is this level of attention needed? So that's one example. I've been listening to a book called Reset by Dan Heath over the last couple of weeks, and it is full of such great information, highly recommended. And they quote type 1 and type 2 decision making. And this is something used, I think, by Jeff Bezos. And his statement is that a type 1 decision is a one-way door. You walk through that door and it closes behind you, there's no going back. So the example they used was acquisitions and mergers, or maybe you're talking about selling your practice. You sell your practice or you step away from your practice, there's probably not any going back. One-way door. Those decisions should be slow, methodical, very well researched, because you want to make sure that it's not a mistake. That's type 1 decisions. Type 2 decisions, it's a swinging door. You can walk through that door, and if that decision didn't resonate or didn't work out the way you wanted it to, you can walk back through that door. So think about something like you're hiring a new front desk staff, you're going to try out a new EHR, and some of these have more weight than others, or you're going to try a new workflow, you're going to pilot something. If it doesn't work, you get to switch back to that other thing. And those decisions, type 2 decisions, should be much more nimble, quick. They don't need to be as researched. You can work out the details as you go. And what if we're spending type 1 decision making thought processes when it's really a type 2 decision and doesn't carry the weight? Can we switch between those two and be more discerning and raise our awareness to say, wait a minute, am I spending way too much time on this, or can I just give it a go and try it out? And if it doesn't work, I'll switch to something else that does. Does that make sense, Joanne?
Oh my God, this is so cool. I wrote it down, and I was having that thought of how often, and again, I can raise my hand, that I am making a type 2 decision, but spending type 1 energy. And that was also what was coming to mind as an example, more on the mindset side of discernment, and something that, like we always talk, asking better questions. When I was talking to a coaching client recently, and she was talking about something that had happened with her family. It was actually very important. It was a big thing, and she was hurt and she was angry, but it was with someone who was close to her. So she wanted to, right, like her words, let it go and be better at it. And there's things that we can't just, right, like I said, if there was a switch that we could stop thinking about it and really let it go, I don't like that phrase, we would. And then a question that I have is that where you want to put your mental and emotional energy? Like, we might not be able to control that. It comes to mind and that it triggers all the emotions. But sometimes the way we think about it and what we make it mean and how much we play that movie in our heads over and over, spends a lot of mental emotional energy. And then having the discernment to ask that question, is this where I want to spend my mental and emotional energy? And then right, like it's can we move it from a type 1 to a type 2, if I use that example, even in this mindset? That, I think that's a cool concept.
When you bring up that topic of energy and where we're spending it, we all know that we've all got 24 hours in a day. So we think of time being limited and valuable, and yet we don't think of our energy the same way. And we really do have a specific capacity to our energy like a battery, and it's not unlimited. We really don't have unlimited energy. And if we can think of ourselves as a battery that gets depleted, can we be more discerning with how we spend our energy? And I remember spending about 98.5% of my energy at work. And then I came home and I still had to be a wife and a parent to my kids. And I was completely depleted because I didn't recognize that about energy. And so then, as I'm coaching women in medicine, my recommendation is you need to be more discerning with how you're spending your energy so that you are not depleted either for the second half of your workday because you spent all your energy in the first half, or done with your energy by the time you get home.
In this, right, like we talk about these concepts and they make so much sense intellectually, but when we're there in the middle of it, it can be difficult to pause and ask these questions. What are some things that we can actively do to build more of that discernment?
The first thing is always awareness. Really hard to change something if you are completely unaware. And I'm going to give an example of an area where you might go into autopilot when it's not great. So if you're used to, being a physician, maybe you're a practice owner, maybe you're a leader, and that's the role you play at work. Another level of discernment is when you get home and you are now the mom, the partner, sometimes, the child, the sibling, whatever those other roles are you discerning enough that you take off your doctor hat and you allow yourself to step into those other roles and let go of some of those habits and behaviors that you're so used to in your doctor role? And I know when I didn't do that, I very much disempowered my husband in his parenting as a spouse. And it took time to remind myself that I don't have to be the boss all the time. And if I can take the back seat and let somebody else make decisions, it doesn't always have to be me. Now I'm conserving energy and letting somebody else use their energy to step into that leadership role. So, really being discerning in what role am I in right now, and what's the appropriate hat I should be wearing? What are my interactions, and be really discerning instead of going into autopilot. What feels normal or natural, and is that the right place for it? So that's one place that we can be aware of what are my circumstances, and then asking yourself, what is the level of skill? What's the level of expertise needed for this project or this role? Am I the one that should be in it?
Mm.
Or can I be discerning and pass it to the appropriate person? And just looking and seeing where I'm bringing a term we talked about in the last episode about alignment is relevance. And when we are discerning, we are going to be much better at making sure the decisions you're making, the roles you're in, even the relationships you have are relevant to your life now, not to the past you, and making sure that they align. And so, just the last piece is there are sections of your day that should go on autopilot, right? So, there's a planner system Joanne and I both use, and it recommends the first part of your morning, your evening wrap up, your startup to your workday, your wind down of your workday, that you have systems in place that go on autopilot. They're going to save you energy. They're going to save you decision making fatigue. There are other parts of your day that you do not want to be on autopilot. When you're connecting with your kids, when you're having a conversation with your spouse, when you're sitting across from a patient, we shouldn't be going on autopilot and letting our mind think about all the other problems. Those are the times we want to be discerning and saying, how can I be fully present for this role that I'm in right now, and not go on autopilot? Or again, forgetting to transition from doctor mode to mom mode. And so really encouraging you to use that power of discernment to look at those different areas, kind of looking at it with a different perspective, and how discernment might better help you maneuver through each of your days and allow you to get better results, and hopefully with less usage of your energy, so you have more of that left over.
This is so good. I'm here thinking in a lot of insight of what areas of my life I need to be in a little bit more of this discernment. And I like what I heard you say, it's right, like discernment to make sure that we are in the right role at the right place, right? Like discernment to know then when to delegate and ask for help. Discernment to know for what's relevant, right? We're loving that word, presence and intention. And it's worth adding that this work takes honesty with yourself, vulnerability, and trust with yourself that you can, because it's way easier to just go and do than to really have this discernment, to be discerning. I'm making up words, to pause and really ask this question. So it's tapping into my emotions. So I hope it's tapping into you all, that it's making you think, and it's in a good way. Remember, always for awareness and encouragement, never to beat ourselves up, a lot of self-compassion. And if you've been loving these episodes, we would love for you to share it with someone you think would benefit. And we'll ask you again, if you haven't yet, please go to the show and scroll down and give us a rating and a review. That is how we're going to get in front of more people and spread these important messages. And with that, please stay tuned, because our next episode is coming right up.
Do you want exclusive resources and the opportunity to connect with us? Then visit createmeaninginmedicine.com now, where you'll dive deeper into how you can create meaning in medicine. And if you're serious about optimizing your results, take 2 quick steps now. Connect with us on the website and tune in to the next episode.